Hi, Ben here from Visual Dev FM, and today we're going to build our own version of Meetup.com. So, what is Meetup? Meetup is a web app that allows people to list events, and then once there's a listed, it's a public space, so it's easily to find events in your city, your area, and then when you have listed, it allows people to learn about your event, to RSVP, and they can share basic functions. Where's it at, address, time and date, details of the meetup, and then you can see people who have RSVP'd and who are attending that event. So that's what this looks like, right? In Meetup, they instituted a new policy recently where if you're on the free plan, your attendees will have to, have a small charge in order to RSVP, or you could subsidize that cost. So how can we rebuild this functionality and have complete control? So one of the things about using Meetup, yes, it gives us exposure in our city if people are just flocking to that site to search for things that are happening in the area. But if a lot of your marketing is word of mouth or SEO, you can kind of do some work and rebuild this yourself and have complete and total control. And then, a lot of meetups, they not only have meetup.com, but they also have a website of their own, and on that site they are posting videos, blog articles, all kinds of content, so that they can share pieces and things from their meetup with the people who attend, kind of have a community, what have you. So going this route allows you to have everything be consistent, everything live in one site. And so here's what I've got webflow.com up, so I'm just going to view my dashboard. I'm going to make a brand new site, so give me a new project. I'm going to start with a blank project. We'll just call this Meetup in Webflow. Okay, let's get that rolling. So completely blank project. I am going to add a couple of things here, so I'm going to go to my project settings. Go to fonts. I know what fonts I want to use already, so I'm going to use a Roboto. So I want to add it. I'm going to add all the weights here. Technically I would only add what I'm going to use, but I don't know what I'm going to use yet because I don't really even have a design. So I'm just kind of, we're shooting from the hip here, so I'm going to add this. That's going to be the font I use. I'm also going to add Roboto Mono. If we can find it. There it is. And don't need the italic version. I'm going to use this for headings. So now I have my fonts. I'm going to jump into the designer. Now that I'm here, I'm going to need some color. So I do need to pick a color palette to work from. This is always the hardest part. This is colorhunt.co, which has a lot of really cool palettes. So if you want to come search, you can see what's new. You can, view by what's trendy or what's popular. I don't know what the difference between those two are, but you kind of see this is popular, and maybe this is just more recent. Yeah, recency there. So let's go to popular again. Let's just find a color palette we like. So I'm recording this, so really I'm finding a color palette I like. And everybody else just gets to kind of jump on board, and either you like it or you don't. So I'm going to choose, I'm sort of partial to blue, so we can go over here and just say, show me blues. Okay, great. Some good options. Kind of like this right here, so this is what I'm going to go with. So I'm just going to jump over here. First thing I always do in any project is I'm going to add a new page. I'll call it style guide, and then always make it in draft mode so that people couldn't find it. It's not going to publish. So let's just do a few things. One, first things first, for my body, I know I want my font, so I'm just going to select it and say all bodies, all pages. So I'm going to say my font's going to be Roboto. I'm going to make it a little bigger, and I'm going to go unitless here on the line height, so 1.5. And so now I have that set, and I'll add in colors here in a second, but I'm going to add a section in And I'm just going to call this section. It's going to be all my sections, the base. And then, you know, I have a specific padding I like to use, so I like 65 on the top and bottom. I've got that in. I'm going to add a div in, a div block in. I'm not going to use the standard container. I want it to be a little wider, so I'm just going to call this container. And I'm going to give it a max width of 1200. Let's center it. Okay. So now we have a container that we can use to work from. So section and container. Now I'm just going to put in another div, and I'm going to call this style wrapper. And then I'll just add in colors here as a combo class. So actually, leave that blank for now. So style wrapper, I'm just going to set it to flex. And then this option right here. So I'm going to give me a div block, and I'm just going to call this color block. And give it a width here of 200 maybe. Okay, that works. So color block, and let's just give it a generic color here to start. Let's go back over here. We've got 4 colors, so we'll need 4 blocks here. In fact, one thing I could do is just make this about 20%. Nope, not 207%, 20%. Thank you. All right, and then just make this a little taller. Okay, and copy this, paste it in here 4 times. So now I have my 4 colors. So let's jump back over here. So we'll call this dark blue. And I'm going to add in my color here. Set it, and then I'm going to make this a swatch, a global swatch. So I've got that color. I'm going to come over here, grab my second color, come back, and we'll call this, you know, primary color. And let's just set this here, and let's make that a global swatch. Then we've got 2 other colors here. I'm going to go ahead and grab those. And I'm going to go put this in here. Oh, and I just edited my main color block, so that's a mistake. So let's undo. We'll call this dark gray or darker gray. So we'll call this dark gray. Perfect. Let's put in a color. And then let's make that a global swatch. And then let's come and get the light gray. Light gray. And then let's put in that color. And we'll make that a global swatch as well. One thing I don't have an accent color. So I'm actually going to choose my selector here, color block, and I'm going to make this like 15% instead. And I'm going to copy that and put in one more. Remove this selector from it, and I'll call this accent. And then on my color block, I'm going to make it a little shorter. Sorry, pet peeve, but I just want this to look good. So let's find an accent color for this. And in fact, I need like a yellow. Honestly, I think this yellow would look good. So on accent, let's just put this as a background color here. Perfect. And make this a global swatch. So now I have my section. I have a container to use and reuse. I have color blocks. And so what I'm going to do is just quickly build this. I'm going to put in a section. I'm going to put in a div block. And I'm going to give this a class of container. Okay, so I have built this again. And then what I'm going to do, give this a class of section. Since I'm going to use this all the time, I'm just going to make this a symbol. And I'm going to call it section. And then this way I can reuse it over and over again. For this one, I'm going to unlink from the symbol, but I still have it. So if I do my quick find, I can type in section and literally pop this in, unlink it, and I can build really quickly because I've got that set up to use over and over again. So have my section here, have this. Let's just start putting in basic elements. So I'm going to put in a heading. And I know this takes time, but so much easier when you're building, when you don't have to go through and style everything individually. So we're just going to say all H1 headings. These are going to be Roboto Mono. I'm just going to keep the basic styling here. In fact, I might actually all H1 headings. We'll just take it just like that. Okay, and then we'll say all H2 headings. Roboto Mono, and let's this 0.5. Okay, perfect. And then we'll switch this to an H3. We're going to style all H3 headings. Then we'll do the same thing here. H4. Say all H4 headings. 1.5. Okay. And then this will be an H5. Perfecto. All H5 headings. Same thing. Just follow the process here. And then make this an H6. All H6 headings. Get our font. And then perfect. Okay. So now all of our headings are set. So we're good there. Let's just put in a paragraph to make sure it's kind of what we want. So paragraph, that looks pretty good. I like that. We can live with that paragraph. Okay, I'm going to put in a button. This is going to be my button. I kind of want a small rounded look, not drastic. So I'm just going to call this button. And let's give it like 5 pixels. What do you say? Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for. Okay. Might go to 10. Is 10 too much? We'll see. So I'm going to make my buttons by default this blue color. And I want to make these mono. Okay. And then I want to make this a little more padded. Just a little bit more big, a little bit bigger. Okay. And then I'm going to switch over to the hover state here. On hover, I want the button to like go maybe to the dark blue. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, it's not bad. Or we could maybe hover and make it the yellow and what darker text maybe. Interesting. Don't know that I like that either. Okay, so let's just switch back to making this look something like this right here. Okay, perfect. So, and in fact, what we might do is just hover. This isn't in my color palette, but let's go with that same tone of blue and just darken it up a little bit. And we'll add this as secondary blue, which is fine. Okay. So now it's just a little darker there. Perfect. So we have a button, have all our colors. One thing we probably ought to put in here as well is a form block. And we should go ahead and style this just because we're going to have forms here and we want these to be consistent and not have to style these. So I'm going to make the labels match the headings a little bit. I don't want this to be so bold. I want it to be lighter, so we'll go down normal. And then we'll do the same thing on the inputs here. So there is no all inputs, so we're just gonna say input, give it really basic, and then I want it to be 10. Roboto is, I mean, that's right, so we're pulling that. Want the font to be that black color there, and then let's placeholder just so we can see what this looks like. And then let's get some padding on the top and bottom just to want it to kind of match this feel here. In fact, probably ought to measure the pixels. So 60 tall, it's 52. So let's bring this back down just a little bit. There we go. So now it's going to kind of match our button there, which is great. And then we want to make sure our typography is the right size. So 16 is good. Just want to make sure that that's set there on the input. And then we can come in here and we can switch these. So placeholder text, we could change this to something different if we wanted, but we can maybe make this a little lighter here. Okay, so placeholder text, and then we have the actual text, which we're good. So, and I don't mind the outline. We can just leave that kind of natural. Because if you're going to be working with this project, if you clone it, which it'll be available, then you can kind of style this to your heart's content. So I'm going to input, and we'll just say placeholder email at domain.com. Okay, perfect. So we'll give this a class of button, because why not? Perfecto. Okay, so we've styled our forms. We're going to have to style some other elements, but I think for now, we are probably good. We've done the majority of the work here. We styled all of our typography that we're basically going to come across. Given ourselves some colors, got our input styled. Now it's time to build the site. So let's jump over here to the home page. Other place we should probably start is content first. So let's just click on this and come over, and we're going to say events, because it's a good starting starting point for us here. But I'm just going to come in and change this to like meetups, just so we have it. Okay, and let's kind of look back at this. So here they have an address. They have Tulsa UX. They've got the title, who it's hosted by. That's really good. So we'll need some of that. So we do have name, slug, custom fields here, because that's the basic info. Start date. I don't know that we need the end date and time, but we'll keep it just in case we need it. Location, we've got that. We're good there. So we should be good. Description, it's good. Short description, yes. Image. RSVP link, we won't need so much, because we're going to do that all in-house here. Now, let's look at other pieces we might want to add. We got the image, got the description. All right. I mean, things actually, we're doing really good here so far. So we're actually going to cancel this because we don't need it. Cancel. Okay. And we're going to create this collection for now. Okay, so now we have a collection of meetups. So we need a couple of things. One, we need a collection, and we're going to call this, we'll still authors, but we're going to call this speakers and hosts. Okay, perfect. And then this way, it allows us to kind of quickly work off this. We got a Twitter profile link, Facebook profile link. I'm going to add this in. We'll say GitHub profile link if it's a kind of a technology related one. Maybe Instagram profile link. That might be more prevalent. We got picture, email address, bio summary, name, slug. So we're looking good here. So we do have this. So this is perfect. And so we're set. So now what we want to do is we want to have meetups reference speaker and host. So I'm going to add a field. I'm going to call it multi-reference, and I'm going to say hosted by, and then let's speakers and hosts. Okay. And this is multi-reference. So now when I save this collection, if I went new and I had some speakers already created, I could have multiple speakers. So we definitely want that. And then I'm going to go back into meetups. I'm going to add this again. So we have hosted by, but I'm also going to multi-reference this, and I'm going to say speakers. So, and we'll do the same thing, speakers and hosts, save. So now we can list who it's hosted by, who the speakers are. Those can all be added here in this collection. So now we'll be able to say who's hosting it, and maybe who's speaking, because that's something that we don't really have. I mean, you can kind of put it in here in your description, but I will say there is a cool Meetup website that I really like that is built on its own. It doesn't exist, and it's for Queer.js. And so, like, if you go into one of their pages, you can see, oh, these are the people who are speaking, which is really cool. List their attendees. I do like this. We're going to try to maybe steal some things from this or get some inspiration from it because it's really cool. They do a really good job, and I really like the way they've laid this out. Super simple, effective. But, we'd like to be able to list our speakers so people could, click on it, see a bio, read a little bit more, explore a little bit more. So definitely going to have that there. So that's important. So meetups, and then our fields are here, and then hosted by speakers. Okay. So the other thing that we need is we'll need to list attendees. We're not going to get there yet. But what's really cool about Webflow is, I don't have a set list of people that I am doing a meetup for, or what have you, or whatever. So I'm just I need data to work with. So I can add dummy data. So I want to add just 10 speakers and hosts. Just generate dummy data. Going to start there. So now I have 10 speakers. And you see... here we go, speakers and hosts. This is really not terrible, but it's a little different than what I wanted. So what I want to do is I'm actually going to cancel this. And I'm going to select these just because I'm particular with the data that I'm working with here. And I'm going to delete this. I'm actually going to come in here. And I'm going to delete these fields because we're connected here, speakers. We're going to do this again. So let's save that collection, speakers and hosts. Let's go ahead and delete this collection. Okay, let's add this back in. Let's choose team members because it's going to choose people. So it's same sort of thing. Profile picture, I am going to add in GitHub link, link, and I'll add an Instagram link just in case. You could customize this to your heart's content. But now I have this in here, right? So I've got my people, and I'm just going to call this, once again, actually, I'll just call it the crew. So it's our speakers and our hosts. Actually, I should probably do this more, speakers and hosts. But because this is team members, and I create this collection, when I add 10 dummy items, instead of the Lorem Ipsum, I should have actual people here. Brr. Didn't do it again. Okay, so let's try one more time. So let's select all these and delete. Okay, perfect. And then what I'm going to do, speakers and hosts, I'm going to delete this collection. And I'm going to make a new collection, call it team members, add in my fields one more time. I know this probably isn't a big deal, and you're saying just move on and use the dummy data, but I'm particular. Instagram link. Okay. So I'm going to, this is team members. I'm going to create this collection, and I'm going to add 10 people. And now, perfect. So I get actual names. I actually get portrait images instead of just generic images. Now I can come in here and I can change this. We'll call it speakers and hosts, and do the same here, speakers and hosts. It's yelling at me that I'm changing the slug. That's okay. I haven't really. And then so over here, I'm going to say, once again, multi-reference field, hosted by. And let's choose that speakers and hosts. And I'll say speakers, multi-reference field, speakers and hosts. Perfect. Okay, so now I have this collection. And now that I've added this in, I can add 10 dummy items here. And it should even pull in speakers and hosts for me. So here are my events. You can see I've got hosted by, who the speakers are. This is all really perfect. So now I have dummy data to play with. So let's get started. So I'm just going to start by adding in, adding in my section here, my symbol, and I'm just going to unlink it. And then I'm going to call this hero section. Perfect. And now that I'm set here, I actually do want to throw in one other thing here. So I'm going to throw in a section here on the body. And let's move this up. Perfect. And then I'm actually going to say that this is a nav. I'm going to build my own nav instead of the Webflow nav. I will use, we'll do it this way. We're going to build our own nav. So I am just going to take this container and copy and paste it up here. So, and then I'm just going to add in a div, and I'm going to call it nav wrapper. Perfecto. Okay. And then I'm going to make this flex. And then I'm going to put in 2 divs. Div here, div block, and then div block. And then I'm going to put in a link block here. And I'm going to call this brand wrapper. So, this is brand wrapper, okay? And then let's put in a heading, H1, and we'll call this brand name. Oops, if I could spell. Brand name, okay? And then let's just make this 10. Perfect. And on my nav wrapper, perfect. Okay, so I've got my brand name in the brand wrapper of the link block. I'm just going to go ahead and say that this is not underlined. This font is fine. But what I'm going to do is come in here and set a color. So I want it to be our blue color. Maybe I want it to be, okay, I'll set this blue. So perfect. So I'm just going to call this, Meetup. Boom. Nailed it. Okay. And then right here on my section, I'm going to call this nav section. Sweet. And I just want to put like a small border here. So I'm just going to choose one of these colors. So I want it to be light. I'm even going to lighten it up even more. Making it a little transparent. Call it 45. It's good. So now in a preview, I've got my name. I've got a little border here. And then over here, this is going to be my nav wrapper. Like it. Actually, I don't like it. Let's call it menu wrapper. Okay, perfect. And then I'm going to put in a link block. And I'll call this a nav link. And then inside this, I'm going to put a text block. Perfect. And I'll call this home. And then right here, let's just add some padding on each of these. And let's give it a radius, because we might set a background here. Don't know what I'm doing yet with it. We want to take this background off. I do want it to be the mono version of this. Normal. Let's make it a little bolder here. Yeah, that's fine. And then let's make the color, let's go ahead and set that to that same color. And then let's say, actually, let's set that to that same color. And then maybe, just maybe, let's give it a border and call it that same color. I like that. And then what we want to do is we want to say on hover, the background color would switch to this, and we would go to white. So it kind of fills on hover. Works for me for a nav element. And then down here, let's go ahead and transitions. Let's just add a basic one, just so it's not such a hard cut, but we get like a little transition. And so we don't want it on opacity, though. We want it on background color. Yeah, it's a little softer. I'll take that. Okay, and then we'll actually put a little padding here on the side. So let's add about 20. Let's copy and paste this a couple times. Home, about, events maybe, so we can list them all out. Contact, blog, videos. Okay, let's take contact. And let's drop that all the way. In here. Perfect. Okay, so now we have, and I feel like that's like a little too much. I don't know what it is about that I don't like, but I definitely don't like it. In fact, maybe what we'll do is we will get rid of this altogether. And so it looks a little bit like this. This I can jam with. Okay. So this is our section that's a hero here. So here I just want, I want to focus on one event, like the very next event. We want to get people to sign up for it. So I'm just going to put in a div block here, and I'm going to call this hero event wrapper. Boom. Perfect. Okay. So then we're going to add in a collection list, and we're going to tie this to our meetups, and it's all of them. Okay. So we don't want that. So we just want to show one. So let's limit the items. Let's show one. And let's start at one. And then the sort order is oldest to newest. That's fine. Actually, newest to oldest, probably, right? So, so this is the next event up. Okay. So I'm going to put in here a div block, and okay. Actually, I'm going to right click here, and let's convert this to a link block, and we'll call this a Meetup Hero link. Perfect. And give it a width of 100%. And let's give it like a minimum height of like something tall. Yeah. And let's do something like this. This is perfect. And we're going to add a background image. We're going to cover. And maybe even, okay, we'll do it this way. Let's just get our image. Get background image from image. So this is our image that comes from the collection here. So this is good. I'm going to set this to position of relative, and then I'm going to throw in a div block here, and I'm going to call this hero meetup overlay, and then I'm going to set this to absolute, and if I punch this up here, so now it's going to cover this whole box. I give this the same radius, and then let's give it like a background color here, and maybe we tint this image a little bit, which is good. And then maybe even on the background image itself, so if we jump back up here on the background image on this element, maybe, nope, can't do that because we're inside, we're a child of it, so we don't want to do that. Okay, so have this, or we could even like go like with the black and tint it. Of course, I guess it doesn't really work because this image is black. We could go this darker blue to kind of, let's just try out all our colors here. I kind of like the bright color, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, and then now let's get going on setting this up. So we want to, in here, we're going to put another div block, and on this one, we're going to say hero content wrapper. Lots of wrappers. Okay, and in here I'm going to put a heading and link here that wraps everything, encapsulates everything. What we want to do is we don't want this to be have any text decoration, and we want to set like the font color to be whatever our normal font color would be. And in this we just put in some like padding here. Okay, perfect. And then let's get this from the name of our meetup. So this is the name of our meetup, and then let's get a paragraph, and then let's get the text from the short description. Perfect. Okay, so now we have that working for us, which is nice. And let's see, what else do we want to do here? We're going to get there. Just thinking really quickly about maybe a good approach here on how I want to position this. So I think what I would like to do is on my hero meetup overlay, my meetup hero link where I have the image, I think I would kind of want this to be, we're set it to cover, but I kind of want the focus here to be on this image. Like this image would essentially be like the highlight. So maybe this isn't so much of an overlay or so heavy. Maybe let's switch this up. Okay. And then I'm going to change this to just a nice white. And I'm going to rename this class. We'll call it Hero Meetup. Okay. I'll call this Hero Meetup description. Long class names, but at least I know what to do. Okay, here, and then I'm just going to jump in white. Perfecto. Okay, and then I'm actually in this hero content wrapper. I'm going to actually div block here. Call this hero content, and then hero content wrapper, I'm going to set this to flex, and then we'll say left and center, and then actually do height 100%. Okay, so just so we get it like this, and then on this one, like maybe we want the width to be like 20%. Maybe a little more, and then maybe pull this in just a little bit for 50. Okay, so now it's like, oh, okay, this is the event, this is the name of the event, this is the short name of the meetup, this is the short description, and then here's an image that shows that off, and then what I can do is I can come down here and I want to put some sort of a button. My button is blue, so I'm going to put in a button, and I can't even nest that. So what I want to do is I want to put like a div block, and I want to put some text inside it, and then I can just play with this here. So this div block, I can still call it a button because it's essentially what a button is. So if I were to come down here and put in a button, and see, this is what if I put the button class on it. This is what my button looks like. This is what it looks like, without that. So I'm going to call this, hero button. Actually, yes. Actually, what I like to do here is I'm just going to duplicate this class. Call it hero button. Okay, so I'm going to set the text to white here. I'm going to say learn more. And then I'm just going to delete this here. And I'm going to change my color since it is sitting on blue. We'll definitely go yellow. And maybe with our font, we'll make it blue. And then on hover, let's make it like the gray and blue. So it's like that. That works. Okay, and then our button, right now it's block. Let's make it inline block here. So now it does look like a button, even though it really isn't. The whole thing is a link right here, but we can click and learn more, right? We can go learn more about the event, or maybe we can say, even better, since it's a meetup, we can say RSVP now. So now we have name of the event, description, an image that we're focusing on, and then a place for people to RSVP. So we're looking pretty good so far, I think. In fact, I might make this just a little taller. Really highlight that. And you could, arrange this however you want, but just a real quick, easy way to highlight this one upcoming event, and then we're probably missing some things. If you're looking at this, you're going, Ben, more information is needed. So pretty big deal when we hold an event is when is it? So good call. So let's put in here right beneath the heading. Let's put in a text block. Oop, not a text link, a text block. Thank you. And then let's get this from the start date and time. And we'll just say, boom. We actually don't. So this is this one right here. We want to do, we want to come in here to meetups. And on the start date and time, we want to include time picker. And on the end date and time, we want to include the time picker as well. So on this start date and time, we'll set this collection. On this one right here, let's go ahead. Okay, 7 p.m. That's perfect. Let's just say it's like actually it starts at 6:30. Okay. So now we'll save that, and we can take this, and we should be able to, yeah, just like that. So now we can call this hero time, and then we'll make this white. And the cool part about this is that since we've set all of our font, we don't really have to keep messing with styling. So we'll make this a little smaller, and we'll make it maybe a little bit lighter. And then what we'd like to do is probably put some padding on it as well, and maybe even give it a little bit of a borderline here. Yeah. So now we have our event name, when it is, and the date. We can, or the short description of what's happening. We can RSVP now. So boom, first part of this done. Okay. So essentially, if we were doing this though, we'd probably have other pieces here, right? So one thing that we quickly could do is we need a blog, like if you were including a blog. So let's go blog posts, and let's create a collection, and then let's add 20 items just to cover ourselves, to make sure we have everything we need. So now we have some content here, and in fact, if we came up here to this collection, I just want to see what this image looks like. So let's like go oldest to newest, just to see like with other images. Yeah, it's still, I really like this. We kind of have name of the event here, short description, and a button. Definitely, if our event names get really long, this could be pushed. So like maybe on the hero content, that's why it's good to play with some of this content and kind of just see what it looks like. Maybe we don't want it quite that wide. And then maybe here on this hero heading, I don't want this line height to be quite so big. And I might even take the size of this down just a little bit, just to make it feel a little more comfortable. So now I could come in here and on my collection, and we can switch this sort one more time and go back to newest to oldest, just so we can see. Okay, yeah, I still like this. This is good, right? So focus on the image. So especially if you're running kind of a more artistic type, or you've got a lot of good art to work with, and this would be really great way to set this up. And you can, once again, you can set this up however you want. So maybe below this now, we want to add another section. So I'm just going to jump to my symbol, add it in, unlink from that symbol. So now I'm ready to go with the next section, and I can call this, we'll call this blog section. So we want to insert some of our blog posts. So let's actually put in a collection list, and let's tie this to blog posts. That looks really good to me. And then on our collection list, let's go to grid, and then let's go 3 across. I think I could really like that, or maybe even 4 across. I like that. Okay, and then maybe we'll start with the whole thing here. So I'm just going to put in a div, And I'm going to call this blog image. And I'll give it a minimum height of 200 maybe. Too tall, way too tall. Bad guess, Ben. Let's say like 140. Okay, and let's do the same thing. Let's give it, you know, like a border. Let's add in like a background image. We want to cover and center, and then let's get that background image from the main image. Okay, now we've got blog post images, and we're looking pretty good. Okay, and then maybe beneath this, we want to just in this collection item, we want to add in, you know, a heading. Maybe this would be actually an H3, and we'd get the text from the name of the post. So kind of have a grid layout here. And for these blog headings, what I would want to do is probably make these match the other headings with the mono font there. Yeah, there we go. So now I've got that there. And maybe, even though that's my size, I just want to make this a little smaller. So now I've got, you know, image, name, and then maybe down here I'm going to put a div, and I'm going to call this blog details wrapper. And then I'm going to flex this, and then I'm going to put in a couple of divs here. So div, and a div, and then I'm going to put in a text block. And I'm just going to get this from, you know, published on. And we'll do created one, so we have a date because we haven't published this yet. And we'll say, you know, and we'll go with something like this. And I'll call this details text. It works perfect. And then I'm just going to set this color to something a little lighter. Actually, definitely make this a little smaller. So 10, just like that. This should be, this is display block. Let's make an inline text here, and let's copy and paste it. And then on details text, let's just give it like a little bit of margin here. And on this one, we won't pull that text from anything, and we'll say, you know, posted on. And maybe that's too much margin, so we can kind of get that right. So post it on there, and then here we'll just do it just like this. Okay, and you know, we'll probably and I definitely messed up here, but you know, this would be a good place to put like who wrote it. And I don't think that I included the speakers and host collection here to pull from an author. But you know, you could also do like a category here. So I'm just going to actually take this same text, and I'm just going to paste it in here. And I'm just going to say category name. Then, you know, you could hook this up to whatever you want. And then let's take the whole thing, and let's just put like a link block here. And then just move this up. So let's move everything into the link block, so that the link block is wrapping everything. I probably should have done this ahead of time. I definitely did not. Okay, so now you can see that each collection item is in a link, and we can take that link block and we can move it here and go no underline, you know, make our text black, so just like this. And then we can say, take this heading, we say on hover, let's underline that. Actually, no, it's text decoration underline, just like that. So, so now when we hover over this, whole thing's a link, but we can link to the blog post here, and kind of have a good layout to work with. So, in fact, what we should probably do here is we can call this blog. Let's rename this class to like a blog link, and give it like a minimum height of like 300. Okay, something like that. And then we'll go ahead and play with this just a little bit. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So so now we have blog in a grid, and people can go read the blog posts, and we could even like on the image, like we'll probably do a little bit of a hover too. Maybe make this pull the opacity down just a little bit on hover. Okay, so boom, boom, boom. Okay, so now we have like content. We have the event up top, and in fact here we should probably put and what I would do actually is let's do this, and let's take this collection list. Let's actually limit the items. Let's only show 4. So we don't want to show every blog post here, but we want to show like our latest blog posts. So now we have like most recent blog posts, and you can come in the container and put in like a heading. This would be an H2. Let's just jump it up here, just like this, and we can say latest blog post, which is perfect. Okay, and so now we've got post here, and you can like my section here. I don't need quite so much padding here, so I'm going to pull that down just a little bit. And then on this section, the blog section, I'm actually going to take some off the top, just so this doesn't have so much space between. So, okay, so now my latest event blog post, so we can see the recent blog post here. And in fact, we should probably sort this because we did not do that. So sort order, want to say created on newest to oldest. So now we have our blog posts, we have events, and then we probably don't need much more here just because I want to show you how you can really rebuild the events part, but I just kind of wanted to show you like how would I approach this here. So so we've got that, and then let's just add in one more section. So let's jump down and grab the body, and let's put in a section, add that in. Okay, and then let's unlink it, and then this section we'll call footer section. Okay, perfect. And then what we want to do here is on my footer section, let's go back and undo. I did something here. Yeah, section combo footer. Okay, and then let's just like set this like we could do like a gray, perfect. And then we'll take this guy and come down here. So let's put like a div. Let's call this footer wrapper. And just like this. So we do want we'd want our logo and whatever back down here as well. And then down here, we'll just put in another div. The footer wrapper, we'll set it just like this, and we'll say text link. And in fact, on the footer wrapper, let's set this, and then we'll call this footer link. And we'll make this that same color, and we'll say on hover, there is no text decoration. We'll remove that. Okay. Then we want the same, so home, about, events, blog, videos, contact. So, and we want a little bit of margin here. So, home, about, events, blog, videos, contact. Okay, blog, videos, and contact. Okay, perfect. And then right beneath this, so this footer wrapper in the container, I'm just going to put one more div. And this is where I'm just going to put some text block, and we'll center this, call this footer small text. center this, and we'll make this a little bit lighter and a little bit smaller. Then we could say, you know, like option G, so give us copyright, your Meetup group 2019, right? So, and then footer wrapper, we'll put a little space here, 10, 11, 12, 15, perfect. And so now we have a footer, we've got a menu, got a place to show our latest Meetup, and we've got our blog posts, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to nav section, and now we need to make this responsive. So so we look here, this is not great. So one of the things that we want to do on our style guide, in fact, that I messed up here, is in our container, on every level, I want to add some padding, because if it goes to the edge of the screen, I want padding here. So so what that will mean is if I come back here, I go here now, I'm not right up against the edges, which is what I want. This is all great. So let's start styling here. So I'm going to start with this hero section. This would look good for me on a tablet, and then here on landscape mobile, I might want to make this hero content just a little wider. And then here I would make it 100. And on my padding, I might take this down a little bit. And in fact, I would remove this minimum height, take it to auto. Oop. Maybe not. Keep that there. But maybe make it not quite so tall, and I might make this font just a little bit smaller. Okay, so got a hero section that I feel like will work across different sizes. Okay, and then on my blog posts, here I like that. Here for across, I do not like this. So let's actually delete this column, and then let's delete this column. So now we have it set just like that. We get here, let's delete this column. So now we have that set for mobile. And here, let's just see how we look here. Okay, that's fine. Here we definitely want to make this a little bit smaller, so we'll call this blog section heading, and we'll make this just a little bit smaller here. And then on our footer, we would here looks good, this maybe a little much, so what we would do is on the footer wrapper, we would just switch this to vertical, just like this. And on our div block here, we'd call this footer link wrapper. Maybe give it a little margin up top, 10, and a little margin at the bottom. Works pretty good. Then here, that would work, but we would probably want to just make this like this. And then remove this on here and center and put a little margin at the bottom. All right, so our footer's response, everything's really looking good. This not so much. So let's work on our nav bar. So one of the things I would like to do is on the menu wrapper, let's just go ahead and choose display none for tablet on down. So now this looks really good, but how do people navigate? Well, quickly, this video is getting long, I know it. We're going to go ahead and put in, and in fact, we might even want it to display block here. And we could take this, maybe make this a little smaller, and then pull this down a little bit. So this works on tablet, so looking good here, okay? And then on mobile, this is where we would go, okay, menu wrapper, let's hide that, okay? And then what we would want to do is we would want to, in the same nav section, we're gonna come in here and we're gonna put in another div. I know, lots of stuff here. And we're gonna call this mobile menu. And mobile menu, we're gonna make this fixed. And we're gonna set this to the bottom of the page. We'll give it a height of like 150. And then so what we need to do is on body, actually we'll stay here. But we will make this, we'll just give this a Z index of like 500. Let's make it super high. And then let's give it a background color of probably make it more neutral, more gray. Actually make it match this here. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll do we do want to do like a box shadow outside the top. Really we want to blur it. Pull that down. Soften up a little bit. Really good. Okay, that'll work. And then mobile menu, we want to flex this. So we'll set this to flex, and then we'll do link block here, and we'll call this mobile menu link. Okay, and let's say just simplify this. We'll make it 25%, and then let's copy it and paste it, a few times here, and then we would actually make this flex and vertical, and then we would put text in here, a text block, and then on this we would center, and we'd just say this is home, and we'd say events, blog, and then maybe contact or something. So have it simplified, and then on this mobile link menu, what we're going to do is we're going to put a border on the right side and pull that down just so we have kind of some separation. And then I'm going to make this text for the link. I'm just going to do decoration, but we'll make the color blue, and let's make this the mono version. Let's make it like a little bolder. And then on the menu itself, let's make it not so tall. So like this right here. So this is how we would navigate it. And then what we'd want to do is on the body, all pages here, we would want to put some padding so that we could actually scroll to the bottom here. We'd want it to match our height of our menu here. So now we have like this mobile menu here, and if you really wanted to make it fancy, a really good thing to do would be to like put in an image above it. So there's an icon, home, events, blog, contact. I can show you what that looks like real quick. So let's flaticon.com, and let's just do home. And then let's close this real quick, and let's go monocolor, and then let's grab a home icon. All the pop-ups. Okay, let's add this. So gotta log in. So let me actually, I have an account on this other page where I'm logged in. So just switching over here real quick, and I'll pull this across so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. Okay, right here. And then what I'm going to do is just steal my color from over here. So it's this Dodger blue, as Webflow has called it, and then just like that, download it. Let's make it an SVG. Why not? So that's one icon, and then events. So we could come back over here and go calendar. This looks good, and we can put in a color here. And then let's download this as an SVG. Perfecto. And then what else do we have? Blog and contact. Okay. So let's just jump back over here and give us a blog. Yeah, sure. This is good. Blog. Let's set a color. Download an SVG. There's your perfect. And then let's say contact. So it wouldn't be a phone call probably. So what we really want is an envelope. Yeah, just like this. And then we'll set that color as well. And let's download this as an SVG. Perfecto. Okay, so now we have icons here. And if I were to come over here and I were just to grab these and drop them in here so I have them, and then I could put in an image. Let's choose that image. Let's make it home. I could call this mobile icon and give it a width of like 40 or something like that. So now I have this here. Just move it above each and every one. And then I can replace this with a calendar. And I can replace this with that. Replace this with the envelope, please. Boom. Okay, perfect. So now I've got that, and I've got this. It looks a little too tall here. So what I'd want to do is probably make this a little shorter. And then probably on this page, probably want to make the icon a little smaller, and even the font maybe. Oh, wrong one. I don't want to. I want to do it here. Yeah, make this light and maybe a little smaller. So, and maybe even a little margin on the bottom of my. Okay, and then if I actually linked this to the home page, I can do a current state. So when it's actually the link, boom. I want to set maybe the background color to yellow. So I know this is the page I'm on. In fact, I probably have to do that here as well. Current background color yellow. Okay, perfect. And then as I go up, you'll notice, okay, well, this looks really terrible. But mobile menu, what I want to do is on desktop, I want to say display none. It's done. Here, I've got that, and it's display flex. Display flex. So now I have a menu up top here, and then when I get here, it's a menu on bottom. In fact, this mobile menu may be a little tall, even here. So we'll make it a little shorter. Okay, so looking good. Got a mobile menu. And then, in fact, I do need to adjust my body all pages padding here to account for my height. So we can do that here, which is perfect. Okay, good. And then what I can do is I can take this nav section now, and I can create a symbol. And I'll just call this navigation. And then do the same with my footer. Let's create a symbol. Let's call it footer. Now I can use this over and over again. Okay, so perfect. We are rocking and rolling. So we could build out all these pages. We don't really have time. What I want to show you how to do is let's go to the Meetups template. Let's put in our navigation. Oh, not a nav bar. Our symbol for nav. Perfect. Okay, we'll just put in a section, and then we're going to put in a footer. Okay, page built. Let's unlink this so we don't change every one. And then in the container, we can start working here. So when we looked at the Meetup page, what do we have? Okay, this is really good. Title, what have you? Are you going? Really, I kind of like this better. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to put the div. I'm going to call this, we'll call this Meetup page top wrapper. Okay. And then let's just put in a heading, H1. Let's get that text from the name of the meetup. So now we have name of the meetup is there. And then how we're going to have people register is, I do like here, Queer.js, how they do this. You say RSVP now. You put in your name, your GitHub username, and then you submit your form. It's really cool. So what I did is I found this really cool site called avatars.io. It allows you to pull, like, my name here is Bradley Richter. I can pull an avatar from Twitter. Facebook and Instagram don't work. They've kind of discontinued support for this. It looks like the company that originally bought it was bought out. But it will also work with Gravatar as well. So like if you put in an email address. So that's kind of what I have going over here. This is, Twitter for Matt, who is our co-host, Twitter for a friend of mine, Zach. And then I even have this is GitHub, pulling a GitHub. So we're going to give 3 options. They can register with an email address. They can register with, let's say they can register with an email address. They can register with GitHub username, or they can register with Twitter username. And so those are the 3 options we're going to give them. I'm going to go back over to the homepage. I'm going to still this. And I should be able to just post this, copy this, paste this right in here. So if I post this in, here, content wrapper, okay. And I didn't get it all, so it's my fault. So I'm going to delete this, and let's go back to the home. I copied the wrong thing. I just got the wrapper. I did not get the link. This is what I want. So copy that. Let's come back over here to the Meetups template. So now we have the same thing. Name, date, and then what we want to do is we want to, beneath it, put in more information. So down below here, let's put in another section even. Section. Okay, and let's move that up. And let's unlink from symbol. Okay, and then in the container, let's put a div, and we'll call this page content wrapper. And then we will flex this, and let's put in div. And we'll say this is left content, and we'll put in another div, and we'll say this is right content. Okay, and then here we want to put in like a rich text block, get text from the description of the meetup. So now we're pulling this in. In fact, we'll do hero. Okay, pull that gap down just a little bit. Okay, so this is really cool. And then over here on the right content, I need to put in, if we look at the Meetup page, they did have some details here. So let's put in like a div, and we'll put in a heading. We'll call this like H2. And then we'll say location, and then text block, and we'll get that from the location there. And we'll say this is like event details block. Okay, and we'll put a little padding on everything. And then we'll also, I know those are probably not consistent all around, we probably want to work on that. Speeding to a conclusion here. So, and then maybe even we would do just like a light gray here so we could see this. Okay, and then over here, like on my left content, I could go ahead and give this a width. We could say it's like, 80%. And on my right content, it could be 20%. So now I've got this, 80 and 20. So we are seeing like content here, and it maybe, right content, maybe 75, 25, something like that. And then what I'd like to do is maybe put this in here, go up to div, and we'll call this details wrapper. So we can have multiple boxes over here. And then maybe position sticky 0. So yeah, now this would stick on that side. It's kind of perfect. It's kind of how we want it. And then right here, just like put a little bit of padding here so that the content doesn't run right up against it. And when we jump down, let's maybe put just a little bit of space there. Yeah, just like that. So now we have like a Meetup event details page here. And then we could right here start having some fun. So let's put in like a collection list. And let's connect this to hosted by. So hosted by, no items found. Actually, let's go back here, details wrapper, okay, collection list, source, hosted by. Let's do speakers, okay, and hosted by. So there was actually no hosted by on this one. So the meetups, let's do hosted by. Let's pick somebody so we have it. Okay, so we have a hosted by here, and let's play with this just a little bit. So we want to the event details block. We're just going to put in another wrapper. Okay, div. We'll call this event details block, and we're going to put this in here just like that. And then our event details blocks, we're going to give them some padding. So just like this. Then we can even copy this over, move it up above the collection. We could say, hosted by. What are these H2s? Well, it should be like H3 or H4, yeah. It doesn't look like on my all H4s I got that switched. So yeah, okay, so location hosted by, and we could put in like a div in here. Oops. Div block, and then let's call this call this speaker image, because we'll use the same for the speaker. So speaker image, and we'll say like the width is 50 and the height is 50. It's actually terrible. 150 and 150, and we'll make the border radius 50%. We'll give it a background image. We'll choose the cover. We'll center, and then we'll get the background image from hosted by profile picture. So now we can see who is hosting this, which is super cool. So so what we'll do here is we'll actually get div, and we'll drop this in here. We'll say speaker wrapper, and we'll flex it, and we'll center, And then on this image, we'll make it a little smaller, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15. Perfect. Okay, and then we'll put in a text block. I just dropped it inside of this, so I definitely don't want that. So I'm going to pull this out up a level. And then on this wrapper, well, let's make it vertical, yeah, and center, yeah. And then let's get this from the name. So we'll call this speaker name. Okay, perfect. And then let's, just like this, and maybe bold. Okay, so hosted by, this is who it's hosted by, right? And so we can kind of, just like this. So now we see, you know, location, hosted by, and then they can, actually we can do this. Speaker wrapper. Let's convert this to a link block and set our color back and remove that text decoration, and then we would link this to the current speaker so they can go learn about that person. So who's putting this on, who hosted it, and you might actually, you know, want this to be smaller, you know, and we could do, you know, speaking maybe, and instead of doing, you know, current speakers and host, we could, if we jump up, we've already bound it, so we won't be able to bind it again, but we could just rebuild this real quick. So do this, and then maybe even, let's just play around up top. We'll say put a div, and we'll say, you know, speakers wrapper. And put in a collection list, and we'll say who is speaking. Oh, we've got a couple people here, so let's select that. And let's make it a grid, and let's actually make it 3 wide. Perfect. So we could actually, we'll say hosted by, keep that there, and then up here we're going to put our speakers, and then we'll just do the same thing. Like we want a speaker wrapper, so we want a link block, and we'll call it a speaker wrapper, and then we have speaker image and speaker name. So div speaker image, and then text block, and this would be speaker name. So now we have, like, you know, our piece up top with the title, who our speakers are, you know, who's hosting, and where the location is. You know, we have the date and time. And we could probably accentuate this and really get in, but I want to show you now how do we do the RSVP piece. So, great question. Let's jump to it. So, into the meat and potatoes, this is what we want. So we actually want the RSVP up towards the top. So, left content, right content, we actually want it up here in the same container. So I'm going to put in another div. I'm going to place it up at the top of this container. I'm going to call this RSVP section. Okay. It's perfect for me anyway. And then I want to put a little spacing here. RSVP rename class, RSVP wrapper. Okay, awesome. And then what we want to do is we want to jump in here and put in a form block. So we're going to need a form block to make this happen. So, and we'll actually call this a div, and let's grab our form block and let's put it in a div, and we'll call this form wrapper. Okay. So we have that. And then what we'd want here is we'd want to put in a button. And we put this above. We'd give it a class of button. Then we'd give it a class of RSVP. And then let's make it block because it's a combo class. And let's center. We'd say RSVP now. Okay, so it seems kind of like no, right? Like do it now. And so we have this button. And then what we'd want to do is we would take this form wrapper and, what we're wanting to do is something similar to this. So if we refresh the page, the RSVP, then we're going to show that form if they click that. I like that model, that style. So that's what we're going to do. So let's take our form wrapper. Let's just set it to display none. And then let's take our button and let's add an interaction to it. Let's say mouse click, select action, start an animation, show RSVP form. We're going to do that. So this RSVP, this form wrapper, first thing we're going to do is we're going to say hide show, hide it, set it as initial state. So first things first. And then we're going to say show it. So it's going to be display block, just like that. So, okay. So this is display none. Okay. So not bad. Kind of rough, but you could tune this up however you like. So going to show that. Okay. So just so we can build this out, I'm going to go ahead and set this to display block so we can see it. And then so what we would need is we would say, we want to know your, so on this form wrapper, we would want some space here. And then what we would want is we'd say we'd want your name, and we would want, maybe, where do you work, or I don't know. And then we'd give these input classes so that it matches our styles here. Input. Okay. And then we'd call this button, just so it looks like our buttons. Well, now we're getting somewhere. And then what we'd want to do is after this input, we'd want to put in a tabs element. So going back to our flat icon, what we'd want to do is we'd want to say, how do you want to register? So we could say GitHub is a way that you could register. So I'm going to grab a GitHub icon and let's go SVG, free download. And then let's go Twitter. And I like that kind of circle look. So let's SVG, free download Twitter. Let's say, with an email. And so, perfect, SVG, let's download that. Okay, so now we have 3 icons, and then let me grab them and upload them real quick. And so, be these right here, and we'd want to drag those over and upload them. Okay, so right here we would just put an image. And then we would choose our image, and we would say, GitHub. And we could call this register icon. And so we'll say the width is 20 pixels. And maybe that's too large or too small. We'll call it GitHub icon. Okay, and then we could just copy and paste, remove that. Then let's replace this image, Twitter, replace this image, email. Okay, so now we have our icons here, and we could maybe make these a little bigger. In the tab link, we could say, want that to be rename class, tab link. And then call this tab link, not yab link, tab link. Okay, and then call this tab link. And then this is current, so we would probably want to give that, our same border, and maybe not that, maybe background. We could say, that's yellow. And then, so what we'd want to do is we want to copy this input, and this input would be, work, and then this is tab pane 1. And so in the tabs content, we'd actually want to put like 20, perfect. And so this one we could call GitHub, and we could say, enter your first name, but in the place where we say, enter your GitHub username. Okay, so we've got that, and then we can just start switching active tabs here. So, here we could say, we could call this one Twitter. Enter your Twitter username, Twitter handle. Perfect. And then we could switch here, and we could paste in that same thing, and we could call this email. And this would be a type email address. We say enter your email address. Enter your email address. Okay. And that's an email type. And then this should be, Twitter handle should be plain. And this GitHub should be plain. And then our default tab would be, we want people to register this way, I guess. And with this would be plain. Okay. This is not required. Can't require these because we have multiple. So essentially, when they click on this, they'll put in their name, where they work, then they can choose which service to register with, and then they can submit. So, in fact, we'll put this here. What service would you like to register with? Okay, and then we'll call this tabs here. Grab it, put a little margin up top, 30, perfect. Okay, so RSVP, now we've got this name, where do you work, what service would you like to register with? This is perfect. And then what we want to do is on our form block, we want to go to success, and then we want to say, I like to just call this success, and let's just make the background transparent, and let's make this medium, mono version, thank you, we can't wait to see you there. Okay, so now we have our success state here on our form. Form normal. Okay. And so when they view the page, this is what they see. They can see who's speaking, location, hosted by. Like I said, we could really doll this up and make it perfect. But then the RSVP, they put in their information here. Okay, so let's just get started by trying this, right? So I'm going to put in my name. Webflow, and then I can put in my GitHub username, but I can also put in, I need to be able to populate all of these just one time, just to make sure that they're all here. So, okay, so fill out all of those just for me, and then I'm going to submit. So I'm in preview mode, my bad. So I'm going to publish this, and then once it's published, I'm going to open it up and I'm going to fill it out one time. So you can see it in action here. RSVP, name, Ben, where do you work, Webflow. Put in my particulars here. So we have one step. And then submit that. Okay, so boom, I've got one submission. That means now I can work here in and you heard my email come through the form submission. So now I can start working in Zapier. Okay. So what I would want to do to really make this work is I'd want to do a couple things. So one, I would need to come over here and add a group. And what I would want to do is I would want to add a collection. I want to call it Attendees. And so name. And then what I'd want to do is I'd want to have a plain text. And I want to call this GitHub. I'd have one. I'd want to call it Twitter. I'd have one. I'd want to call it email. And then I would want to add a single reference field. And for the reference field, I would want to put Meetup. And then I would want to attach this to a Meetup. So now I have attendees that would match. So one thing that I did not do is in my project settings, I need to create, I'm just going to move this out of the way here so you can't see what I'm doing here, but because I don't want to show this part, but in Webflow, like when you're in your project settings, you can come down here and create API access, generate a token. I'm going to do that real quick. So I'm generating an API token and I'm copying that because I'm going to need it to get the IDs. And I've done a bunch of videos on this already, so I'm not going to go in detail here. But I am going to open up Postman. And I'm going to get quickly an ID for me to work with here. So Webflow. Let's update that. Okay. Just bear with me a second. Webflow send. And there's my site ID. That's what I need. There are my collections. And I need to look up Meetup. There we go. It's perfect. So this is the one I'm looking for, and I need an ID, which is what I want. So I'm going to come back in here, and I'm going to tackle this one more time. In Meetups, I'm actually going to add a field. I'm going to add the plain text. I'm going to call this ID, and this is item ID. So this is actually the ID of that Webflow assigned. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste this in here. This is my item ID, so I'm going to save it. And I'm going to come back in here, and I'm going to add one more field. So I'm going to come in here, and right below where do you work, I'm going to put an embed field. And I'm just going to say input, and the type equals text. And the name equals ID, and the value equals, we're going to grab the item ID here, and then we will close this out. So now you can see my item ID here. And then what I'd really do, so people can't see this, I would just do type hidden. So it's still going to submit here whenever we submit this, but it's just going to be hidden from us now. So I'm going to republish here, and then I'm going to refresh. Then if this is in here, I'm going to fill this out one more time just so we have it. So and then okay, perfect. So submit this, got it now. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up Zapier. Zapier makes you happier. Okay, and I'm going to make a Zap, and I'm going to call this Meetup. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say my trigger is going to be Webflow. So new form submission. And then come down here, Meetup at Webflow, perfecto. Okay, so I'm gonna continue. Site name, Meetup at Webflow. Form name, it's just gonna be email form because I didn't name it. We're gonna continue. So it's gonna run when this runs. So it's test and continue. Perfect. Okay. So what's happening here is now I'm going to Webflow. I'm going to choose an action. I'm going to create a live item. So let's continue. Webflow number 7, continue. Okay, and then let's, on the site, this is the site. Collection would be attendees. So I'm going to create a new attendee. So the name is going to be my name, and you could probably do first and last. The meetup is going to be the item ID that we got. So we're going to pull that across, and then GitHub is going to be my GitHub name. Twitter is going to be my Twitter name. Email is going to be my email address, so I have all of that. And then archived, no. Draft, no. Have to set those. And then name, we'll put my name, and then we'll actually do like to try to see Zapier current date. Yeah, let's do that, because you might have the same person do this multiple times for multiple events, and Webflow will change the slug or whatever, but just to make it easier, we'll just insert this. So it'll be the name of the person and the date and time that they RSVP'd. So we can continue here, and then let's test and continue. Okay, so that was tested just now and sent just now. So now I can come back in here in my attendees. I can refresh my page. And if you look in here, one attendee, it's me, the date and time that I did this, and then all my handles and the meetup that I responded to. So it means here I can come in and I can say, okay, our speakers below this rich text. I can say, attendees. So who's registered? And I can do a collection list, and I can say attendees. So it's going to show every attendee though. So what we want to do is we want to filter it by meetup equals the current meetup. So only, that current meetup there. And then what we could do is, we could do all kinds of things. We could set this as flex, and then list these out. But essentially, I'm just going to pull in some of my code that I was using over here, and use it here. So I can reuse this here. So I'm just going to put in like embed, and then save and close. And then actually, I had another div that I was working on out of. I had named it a class Abby. So let's just call it like 20 by 20. Okay. Actually, the size of the image from avatars was 128 by 128. So, and I can take this and let's just say percent, 50%. Perfect. Okay, and then but in here, instead of having it hard coded in, I could say, okay, this is Twitter save. So it's going to pull from that, and then I could copy this and paste it. So I have another one, and then this one I could do by email even. So if I come back over here, I could say Twitter, we say Gravatar, and then we could switch this to email, save and close. And now that is my Gravatar image. I look very angry there. So we can paste this in again to the collection items. And then we can, I'm going to grab the code I used for GitHub. And then, but instead of having that in, I'm just going to use my GitHub username, save and close. So now you can see 3 different avatars from 3 different services. And then what you would essentially do is, depending on how they chose, you could say this is only going to show if Twitter is set, save. This is only going to show if email is set, save. And this is only going to show if GitHub is set. So somebody typically wouldn't fill out all 3. They would just choose one. And then so what you could do is, like, let's say I just registered using GitHub, and then I save and close. Now I'm on the attendee list down here. And you can even put the name as a hover, whatever, but now we can show all the attendees that are showing up. In fact, I can get rid of this. And so all the attendees that are showing up, if we wanted to, we could even, you know, come here and link these to profiles. If we know what their username is or their emails, we could link it out to GitHub profile or Twitter profile, so you could click on it and go visit that person's social media page or GitHub page and follow them. So now what I've got is a form where people register, choosing, you know, whichever it is, they fill it out, and then they're going to show up on this page as somebody who's attended. And you can use some fun JavaScript to count how many people have attended. So you could have in parentheses over here, you know, 1 person attending, and that count could change. But now you have a site that not only works like Meetup, where people can RSVP, but you know, you also have a site that's got a blog. It's got all its own content, and you have complete and total freedom to kind of do what you want with it, which is super cool. And so it just kind of gives you a whole lot of freedom, you know. And after a while, you have a lot of attendees. Once events are in the past, have gone past, you could, you know, dump the attendees list if your collection count starts getting really high, your item count. But essentially now we have this template where we're showing speakers and we're showing people who are attending, which is, I think, pretty cool for just one Zap to be able to do it. So if you're like, okay, but how do I get the item ID from every event? One really cool thing you could do is you could create a form here. So let's create a new page, and we'll just call this event creation. And you could quickly, you could do it this way. So I'll just put in like my nav. I'll put in a section. Nope, I want to put in a symbol section. There we go. And I can put in a footer. And then let's unlink this. And then what you could do is you could come in here and put in a form. We could say form, and we could say new meetup. And then we could just say, you know, what are some of our meetup fields here? Meetups, the name, and really that's probably all we would want to do, right? So name of the meetup. Okay, so we'll just call this input. Okay, and we'll call this button. And just because I'm particular, let's go to success. I'll just call this success. Okay. But now what we could do is we could make this page password protected. So we could come in here and password protect. So you have to have like a site plan or whatever. You add a site plan, you password protect it, and then what you do is once you publish this, we'll open it up and we'll just say, you know, new meetup for Ben, you know, whatever, and submit it. Okay. And then what I could do is I could come back here and I could create a new Zap. So I could come back and go make a Zap, and I could say Webflow, form submission. this one right here, form name. Now we're doing new meetup, right? So doing this form. And then what we want to do is we want to test and continue. And we want to go Webflow, and we want to create a live item. So create a live item, continue on that same site, and we want to say the collection is meetups. And we're going to, the only field that's really required here is the name. So we'll just take that from the name that we got, archived, no, draft, no, continue, test to continue. So it's going to send this. So it just created this. And then what we'd want to immediately do is add another Webflow step. And we'd want to update a live item. And then we would choose that same account. And if we choose our site and our collection, which is meetups, under item, we now have the item ID available to us in Zapier. So then we could come down through here and fill this in into the item ID as well, that field. The name, which was what we picked here. It's not archived, it's not draft, continue, test and continue. Okay, so now when we come back here, and all this code I use for the images will be in this clonable. We're giving this away, so you'll be able to get access to it. But now when I come back here and I go to my meetups, I have an 11th. You see new meetup for Ben, and then it's already got my item ID here. So when people attend, I don't have to go use Postman or the API to get this ID. It's automatically here. And so now I can just fill this out. I can put in the name, description, all that fun stuff, who my speakers are, who's it's hosting, and then publish it. And then when people register, we're automatically going to grab that ID, pass it over, and we'll be able to see who's attending. So hopefully this helped you learn how to do Meetup using Webflow and Zapier. Hopefully you got a good grasp on it. It was a long video, but thanks for sticking in. I wanted to show you from scratch just kind of how we would approach it, how we would build it. I wanted to give you the power to be able to do that yourself. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We'll do the best we can to help you, and we'll be talking about this very build in this week's episode.